Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazal Ministries podcast.
Is it possible to find definitive photographic proof of alien life or the supernatural? We're going to ask these questions and a lot more on today's episode of Systematic Geekology. We are the Priests to the Geeks, coming to you somewhat live from Grace Lutheran Church. As this is the second one we're recording today, having a good time. We just had some lunch, enjoying each other's company. But of course, I'm not alone. I, of course, being Christian Ashley, I am also joined by
Will the Thrill from Chapel Hill, also known as Wilbo Baggins, also known as Ill Will, dropping mad beats here, competing against Eminem and other friends. So I'm glad to be here in Rock Hill. It's not Chapel Hill, but it's Rock Hill. Will is in Rock Hill. So let's rock the hill.
I hated everything about that. Everything you just did. As it kept on going, I kept on cringing more.
We are also joined by the least enthusiastic,
King of the Cringe,
the least enthusiastic member of our quartet. How's it going, Pang?
It's going good. Hello, from Charleston, South Carolina. We're here in Rock Hill.
We're not in Charleston, South Carolina.
I know. I am from Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
I am now here in Rock Hill.
You weren't born in Charleston.
All right.
But I didn't say I was born. I said I am from where I reside.
Yeah, and even the Beatles had their Ringo Starr. And Ringo, how are you doing today?
I'm here, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm Joshua, by the way.
And one of my favorite bits is not even like 2 minutes or 30 seconds into an episode, we have Pang and Joshua going at it. It's just like one of my favorite things. I love it. I love it. Yes. How can we push buttons
It's
right
like we're
now?
14 again, Josh.
I know.
I was never 14.
Yes, you were.
It's going to be
camp together.
I was 400.
It's going to be one of those episodes, everyone, we're all talking over each other. This is going to be quality for our editor, who is one of those people talking over people.
Luckily, this can't be edited because it's all one single audio file.
Sure.
No, it really is. Look, there's only one plug right there.
Yeah, that's great. And whose fault is that? Our editors. So,
Listen, we had a 2-plug system, and then it broke, and we can't afford more. So people should help us afford better by going to Patreon, Captivate, or Apple Podcasts to sponsor the show.
you know, I wish I'd planned that because that was pretty great.
Good. King of the plugs.
Yeah, Mr. Plug, what have you been geeking out on recently?
I'm gonna say I've been geeking out on Christian Ashley. He runs a few different podcasts. He does Systematic Geekology, Why I Don't Like, and Let Nothing Move You. All of his shows are excellent. So if you're out there looking for podcasts, I enjoy just binging Christian, hearing his voice. It's fun.
Will.
Yes, a couple of things. Everyone knows, or most people know, I'm a big Star Wars fan and comic book fan, and they just rebooted the X-Men. And so X-Men #1, I'm loving it. It was a good first issue. I want to see what happens. They're rising from the ashes. Some biblical imagery of new starts, resurrections. Let's see how they do this new reboot of the X-Men. And I'm watching The Bear on Hulu/Disney Plus if you have the bundle. And I can highly recommend that show. It's so good. And so it's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of yelling and F-bombs, but when we talk about the human condition and human relationships, it's peak television.
And Pang, how about yourself?
I'm going to say something that's not anime. I'm not anime. I meant not romance. It is anime, but not romance. Sorry. That went
We
great.
can only ask for so much.
No, yeah, right. So I've been geeking out on the Joker game, which is about Japan having an espionage of spies and how they train them. And it's like kind of past World War II era. So it's like just now getting like the changing, getting technology is pretty interesting.
Okay. Now, for me, I have just started watching in this new anime series, because I want to talk about anime too, the newest part of the Monogatari series, Off and Monster Season. There are many other different names they use for it. I'm not going to explain them because there's at least 10 other ones. You're better off. If you want to watch it, watch it. If no, I don't blame you. So our topic for today is, as we stated earlier, is it possible for us to find definitive proof of alien life and or the paranormal / supernatural through photographic, film evidence, what have you? It's a very broad topic, so we're going to bring it together. Like, what do we mean by the supernatural and the paranormal and aliens? Does anyone try to take that away from me, or I can do it? What's your expert opinion?
I'm interested to hear her thoughts.
We did not grab you on this episode kicking and screaming.
I was not supposed to be on this episode.
You were. It's been on the schedule for over a month.
Yeah, but fake.
All right. I want a 10-minute hot take.
No,
Go.
just one word hot take. Fake.
Fake. It's all
Wait.
fake.
So the supernatural is fake. Does that include God?
I'm talking about aliens.
I'm just curious. I mean, I'm down with it if that's where we want to go. But
Do you have a
You're
photograph of God?
Yeah, if you have a photograph of him.
I'm not 100% sure God's real. So I mean, There's
Ooh,
that.
okay. You know,
All right,
there's
everyone, let's cancel Josh.
intellectual humility. I see where he's going there. But I love your one word answer. That's what we came for. We were like, we know you're going to be on this and have like, I can't wait to go to you and go, let's go to Elizabeth. What do you think?
My face probably went to like a whole thing of emotion.
So what was the original question, Christian? Sorry.
How would we define the paranormal and the supernatural and aliens?
can I push back further? Does that also include angels and ghosts and like all the things in the Bible that are supernatural?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that comes into play. Like I would say like things that, you know, there's the physical realm and then we talk about the spiritual realm and the supernatural realm. And I'm not quite sure the original like authors of the Bible, Hebrews, Israelites saw a difference between the two because it was all both. Everything was spiritual. Everything was physical. They were entangled. There's your drinking game. Take a drink together. But when we talk about aliens, I think when we hear about aliens, we're not just talking about someone from another country or an immigrant coming to us, but we're talking about someone from another planet, another galaxy, someone into our solar system to come hang out with us or enter into our atmosphere from a different world or planet. Think of aliens. I think if we think of like the span and age of the universe, and how many stars, how many galaxies, how many planets is not, I think most people say by sheer numbers and statistics, there's probably some kind of life out there, biological, microscopic, whatever. But in terms of whether a species can evolve to consciously reflect on its own death and meaning and purpose and connect with us on like a intellectual, mathematical level, I'm not sure. We'll see. But that's what I mean when I think about aliens or intelligent life, supernatural, ghosts, magic, Sasquatch, Nessie. I don't know.
Wait, those don't count.
That's what I'm counting.
That's an important distinction. In that the cryptozoological things, like your Nessie and Bigfoots, are things that we are attempting to prove if they are scientifically, an actual animal out there, versus a paranormal being or entity or ghost or something like that. So paranormal, supernatural, there's an actual answer in what the difference is and how those words are used. But for the sake of this, it is something extra normal. It is something we have not scientifically proven. This would be the existence of an afterlife through ghosts existing, this or a demonic attack or what have you. And aliens, I would go as well with the idea these are beings of some extra intelligence that are beyond our sphere of influence in this solar system that come from another world that have somehow made their way here, whether they be extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial, being from another reality or something like that. Go ahead, Will.
You just threw a word. Hold on. No. You said ultra-terrestrial? I like that phrase. No, but I will say, like, I'll let you expand on that because that's a pretty cool word that I just learned today. But the whole aspect of like the entertainment value, like what we're talking about today, there's TV shows about ghost hunters looking for Sasquatch. We've seen about the Navy posting video of UAPs, and we've even renamed UFOs UAPs to not make it sound too crazy and out of the world or fake. But in terms of there's the entertainment, keep you locked in, escape from reality, and then there's like the legitimate like scientific trying to figure out whether it's real or not. I think the two needs to be attention, which is why we geek out on this. There's a big business behind documentation or reality TV to keep you sucked in, to keep you watching this particular TV show so they can sell you advertisements and pay for advertisements and have these channels like the History Channel continue to exist.
Real quick, ultra terrestrial is another term, I believe, coined by John Keel, of the Mothman Prophecies, a being that is outside of our reality, that somehow made its way here or on a different plane of existence. It's a very multifaceted term. It's a very fancy term. Joshua, you wanted to say something.
Well, I had another question. What should I do first?
Yes.
Okay. Question was, you mentioned of higher intelligence. So would you not consider something an alien if it came from another planet and had less intelligence than us?
Well, how did it get here?
I found a cool warp hole.
Okay.
I just stumbled upon it on accident.
Yeah, I would consider any sapient being.
Okay. I just wanted that clarification. Or if we showed up there.
Yes. Now,
and we saw a new kind of cockroach. I mean, that's still an alien.
That is an alien life
supernatural?
Form.
No. By definition, we are natural.
Now, your statement, please.
But if we go to another planet, are we there supernatural?
Nope. We're still natural.
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're still of nature.
No reality.
We are still of nature. And that's where like for me, I don't think Bigfoot and them should count, because if we had photos of them, they would no longer count as alien or supernatural. They would just be natural.
Well, they're not part of either copy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they just seem like their own topic.
Yeah.
Shoot, what was I saying? Oh, we're talking about like the documentary stuff. I just felt like it was important to mention. Michael Heiser was on one of those ghost hunting shows, Ancient Aliens. And he was a good friend of our other podcast, Whole Church Podcast. He was on a couple episodes there, and he's a really cool guy. He did not like how they used his material there. So I always feel like it's important to say, if you saw him on that, they took him out of context, and he was mad about it until the same month that he passed, at least. So, and he passed last year. Yeah, he passed away last year, which was very sad. He was a really big influence on some of my own theology and thoughts around aliens and supernatural stuff, actually. So
now, I will also say,
I would like for you to expand on that some point during this episode.
Yes, please.
Michael Heiser?
No, just how that impacted how you think about it. But that's still later.
He's so cool.
Yeah. I will also say, there's at least one person in the audience right now who I will name drop later, and I think you might know who you are. And we will cover your inane ideas that I do love and care about you deeply.
They're bad.
And how that may actually be an actual answer to both of these conundrums.
A bad answer.
Hey, I'm the one who gets calling out. Okay?
I just
this is my show.
I'm just commenting.
Back off. All right. Why do we find things like this interesting? Peng, why do you find this topic interesting? I want to hear your 15-page research
I do not.
paper.
Dissertation.
Yep.
I do not find this interesting at all, which is why I try to get off this episode.
That's exactly why we have you on.
I could care less.
Joshua, actual answer.
I mean, I don't find it incredibly interesting, but that's mostly because it's like, A, I'm not in the field where I could possibly come up with photos of any of the stuff. B, I've experienced supernatural, so I know that's real.
Ooh.
And the probability of aliens not existing sounds so absurd that it's just dumb. So I'm like, of course, both things exist. Yeah. So it just isn't super interesting to me. But I like hearing other people talk about it because I like people to confirm that I'm right.
All right. In line with Elizabeth, I'm going to just say, yeah, I don't care either. No, just kidding. That's like,
not the Will
that's
I
not
know.
the Will I know.
With this episode.
And there's a disturbance in the forest, and everyone who knows me are like, something just happened. No, I get it why you wouldn't invest a lot of time. So that take is a legitimate option when it comes to aliens and ghosts. Like if you're like, my life, there's too much going on. I don't give a crap right now. And I want to do other things. There's too many other important things, like how we treat our
There's
neighbors.
so much manga to read.
There's so much manga to read, and how we treat a neighbor on Earth rather than the aliens. I totally get that take. But I will say, like for me, ever since I saw Star Wars as a 5-year-old and think about space and aliens and the diversity within that particular movie and this space war between good and evil and lasers, I was interested in. It made me think about, look at the stars. What else could be out there? Whether it's a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago, or something present, or something from the future, or whether the UAPs we see out there is an ultra reality of us from the future coming back to try to say, don't F this up. That's a hypothesis like that appeals to me, that thought experiment. Now, there was a book that I read, Paul Davies, An Eerie Silence, where he was the director of SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And he's not necessarily a religious person, but he did talk about in that book that there is a reason perhaps why it's so silent, that maybe life of intelligence and consciousness and the ability to reflect on one's own life and purpose of the universe and create machinery or whatever to get to where you need to go in a different solar system is super rare. And maybe that's why it's so silent out there, that there may be life out there, but in terms of evolving to where we have the brains that we have at this point, could be rare. So, but I do find it fascinating and important, especially, from a kid who grew up in the 80s, who had like cameras that you had to take to a developer to print out your thing, to now having videos and cameras on your computer in your pocket that you can shoot anything right there. There is a little difference in terms of documenting and photographing and videotaping alien supernatural stuff. Now that we have AI, fake news, whatever you can manipulate, Photoshop, it's going to be really hard to give, not the burial lead, to document something and people go, yep, okay, there you go, you videoed it. So why is it that we have photographs of UFOs that are super fuzzy and unclear to see, but now we have super clear high def video? I don't know. I just rewatched Nope, the movie as well, and the whole thing around documenting or videoing and having an Oprah picture rather than a fuzzy, crappy one. It's an interesting take. But yeah.
Well, you know what I find interesting? That there are people not subscribed to YouTube so that they won't be able to see the disgusted and disinterested looks on Pink's face.
Isn't that bad?
It's pretty bad. But to actually answer the question and stop embarrassing Pink, I grew up on stuff like this. My dad, we always watched sci-fi stuff together, and he got me into cryptozoology and ufology and the study of the paranormal. And it's always been one of those things. It's like, could it be real? And as someone who does believe in a supernatural, who sees, angels and demons as real things that exist in the world, beyond talking about ghosts and stuff like that, it makes me want to go, okay, how can we possibly prove such a thing? Obviously, I believe in the word of God that says these things are real, but other people, yeah. Actually, Nick and I just did something on Let Nothing Movie where he just said he has a very, what he said. He was not moved. No one gets moved on my show.
Oh, wait till we get that.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Okay.
I plan to just do the boogie on that show.
A view of the world that is not very, or any supernatural influence outside of God himself. If I'm misrepresenting you, Nick, please correct me
in the comments on YouTube, but then get 50 other people to like it.
But I found that fascinating as someone who does see a lot of those things, who does believe in the powers of darkness being in this world, but also the powers of light and God and his angelic forces. But also at that same time, there being a huge universe out there where I can't believe we're the only thing out there. I think God is far too creative to just stop with us. And if he wanted to, he can. But I just don't see that in him. I see the way he's created the biodiversity on this earth and all the very amazing different things that are here. And then you tell me everything else, there's nothing out there. I can't get behind that idea unless he says otherwise. But he hasn't, because that's not the point of Scripture. So, yeah, that's kind of why I care about this. Anyone else before we move on?
Wait, are you sure that Genesis 1 doesn't say God created the earth and screw the heavens?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what it said.
Good stuff.
All right. So starting off with our most happy member of the panel, Peng, do you have any background with experiencing weird phenomena and or investigating it? How do you spend your free time? Do you go to abandoned prisons or mental hospitals?
I have gone on ghost tours before,
wow.
Believe it or not, because Charleston has all those ghost towns. So let me just premise. don't believe in aliens or anything like that. I do believe in the supernatural ability of God and that there is like a spiritual like battle warfare. So believe in that. I'm not a heathen, but
Take that, Nick.
I love you, Nick.
So I'm just saying, I didn't even listen to that episode, so no shots fired at anyone. But I don't care, even if it does exist. So I don't care to learn it. I don't care to know it. I know that God is for me, always fighting with me, protecting me. So I just live my life.
Okay. Joshua?
Well, I didn't have anything to say. Is it just my turn with experience?
Yes, yeah.
Am I doing alien experiences?
Either or.
Okay. I met the doctor when I was 3 years old.
And what did he prescribe to you?
Oh, he told me to just wait 5 minutes. He'd be right back. It's been a while. It was 11. He's terrible.
And that's why he's always hated him, because he never came back.
Yeah. No, a serious answer, because I assume we're talking about supernatural stuff. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so we did a lot of speaking in tongues and that kind of stuff. It was pretty prevalent. And, I still speak in tongues sometimes. It's not something I'm going to speak in tongues now. Until I get on his show, then I can just make it happen. Because Baptists love that.
It's going to be a wild round of Let's Nothing Move You episodes coming up fairly soon. God help me.
No, but also I have seen people that I would still say I believe were possessed by demons that we prayed for, and we had some crazy interactions. Seen people with borderline supernatural strength. I'm not sure I would quite describe it as that. I feel like there's probably some kind of mental, psychological thing that was enabling them to do more than what they'd usually be able to do, because that's just a thing. I've seen a lot of just weird prophesying kind of stuff. And I've even had 2 witches curse me in my lifetime, so that's kind of fun. I don't know if the curse has panned out, but I do have a headache right now, so maybe. I don't know.
I beg to differ.
Have you drunk water today, Joshua?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I also had died once. And in that experience, I saw some stuff happen to a good friend of mine and felt like I had a choice to come back or go ahead and move on, but he'll have to deal with this on his own. And I was like, I guess I'll come back. And then those things happened to him 2 months later. So that was kind of fun.
All right.
I'm alive because of you. It's your fault, and you know who you are.
Yeah, I can't say I've had direct experience with like supernatural ghosts or alien/UFO sightings. I've been around people who I trust and friendships who I know wouldn't lie to me, who've said they have had those experiences that they couldn't quite explain what it was. Now, you have that whole X-Files, you have the rational, these can be explained, and the other one like, no, explore the possibilities, be open to the realities of what could happen. I flow between the two. I'm a science believing Christian person of faith who definitely believes in supernatural way of understanding God and God's self and the spiritual realm. But I think that is entangled. There you go. Drink, Joshua, of with the physical, and it's hard to divorce the two. I would love to see a UAP and a UFO. And I would love to see like a photo of a ghost or experience with a ghost or Sasquatch, whatever. It's kind of like both my kids are working at summer camp this summer up at Luther Ridge in the North Carolina mountains. I hope you can join us at Geek Camp in November at Luther Ridge. Over the course of the summer, they've had this mama bear and cubs wander around camp, and they're trying to like keep the campers safe while these bears hanging around thing. I've never seen the bear. I want to see this bear. Other people have seen it and told me they have. And I'm like, I don't believe you. They've showed me pictures on their phone of the bear. I'm like, I have not seen it with my own eyes. I don't believe you. But yeah, I think there's experience of other people sharing you their experiences. I've only heard secondhand this other stuff. So who knows? I have had moments, God moments, where I'm like supernatural God moments where God not spoken to me with like an audible voice, but I feel like God was speaking to me in those moments and seen, quote unquote miracles with terms of members of people I've pastored and in my own life. So I understand there's something of meaning making and supernatural that is attached to our own story that I believe in. But in terms of aliens and ghosts, they're myths and I think they're fun. I've not seen my own firsthand eyeball experience or photographed on my phone.
I forgot one. That's a big one, I guess. But I'm going to give it in 2 parts because I think it's relevant to the discussion.
Okay.
So I had I've had many dark nights of the soul kind of experiences. And I had one night where I was really struggling with faith and some of the stuff going on in my life and whether I wanted to continue with life kind of stuff. That I really do believe that I saw angels. I don't have any proof, but what I saw was exactly what the Bible says angels look like, and I was like, okay. It was very overwhelming. Not those angels. 6 wings though. That was kind of cool. But it was a very overwhelming experience. Unsure how real it was, but swear I saw it. And then another very similar situation I was going through. Me and TJ were laying on the docks on a lake listening to Johnny Cash. This was on a recent episode of Whole Church. I've talked about this. And gunshots fired above us. And that also, for me, both moments like anchored, just the same way that the angels anchored my reality and that I need to do something about the situation. Gunshots being fired over my head also anchored that situation of, oh, hey, man, my mortality is real. And I don't think that either one had more or less impact on my life because one was supernatural and one was gunshots that everybody else could hear too. So, I think they're both equally impactful. So it doesn't really matter how real they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you've been following us for a while, you know that John and I did an episode on the Christian response to the supernatural and the paranormal. And I'm probably going to repeat everything I said on that one. But for those of you who haven't heard, this is your first episode. Welcome. Sorry you have to deal with Joshua. And
Me too.
I hope you really like paying because she's doing her best. She's giving her all. Yeah, I knew the answer to the question. Yeah, we already asked her first. Yeah.
Yeah. She experienced Harry Potter, and that was pretty supernatural.
Yeah, there you go. But for me, one of the biggest ones I recall it was just after I had left college. I was trying to figure out where to go. I was about to leave my roommates behind to work with a guy who had just come to faith that was working with me as his roommate. And I had asked a friend of mine if I could borrow his Game of Thrones first season DVD. So I had that on. I woke up after having fallen asleep to hearing that and being able to move around. I was under my covers and I just sensed another presence in the room. And I sensed whatever the heck this thing was, it hated me. It hated my guts at its very core of its being. And I was so terrified. I never once looked at it. I never once pulled those covers away. I was just hoping maybe it'll leave. And as I'm moving under the sheets to get some more defensible position while I'm completely helpless, whatever that was teleported from the edge of my door, which was closed and locked because I'm a paranoid person by nature, and then teleported beside my bedside and hit me with a blast of cold air. And if you know me, I don't get cold that easily. I am also underneath some covers too that were quite warm. And yet I was just chilled and freezing and unable to fight back against whatever this thing was. It just kept pouring hatred towards me. And finally I just said, Jesus, I can't do this. I need your help. And like that, whatever it was gone. I looked up, wide awake. Nothing was there. I believe, I cannot prove, that was some demonic entity that had earlier been attached to my new friend, because when he came to faith, he had gone through what might have been an exorcism. He had gone through something immensely traumatic. He was not living a very righteous life. And thankfully, there were some good Christians around him who helped put out whatever this thing was. And it knew, this is once again my opinion, I cannot prove this, that I was going to be mentoring him and it wanted me gone. So once again, I may be making myself the main character in that scenario, but that's what I think. Also, go ahead.
Oh, I was just, I don't want to derail you. Did you have another experience you were going to say?
No, I can wait.
Okay. Mine was a question for Will.
Okay. No, never mind. I won't wait.
Okay. Go ahead.
And then another one as well. I was young. I was about 18 months old, and I was with my grandparents and my mother while we were out shopping. We were in shopping malls when they still existed. And I had left my grandparents behind. They were looking at clothes with my mom, turned their backs, and they couldn't find me. They looked around everywhere. The checkout lady as well was looking. And finally they saw me at the fountain, standing near the water, but not doing anything. And there was just an older man watching me there. And they got there. They grabbed me, my mom and grandmother, and my grandfather and my mother had turned to go look at the guy to thank him for, making sure I wasn't doing anything. And he had just disappeared. And my mother will swear to this day that I was an angel watching over me. Now, obviously I was 18 months old. Can't really give you a backup to that, but they have very little reason to lie to me. So go ahead and ask your question, buddy.
Well, also I'm going to throw some more examples on because I was really Pentecostal growing up, super Pentecostal. I do remember when I was a kid once praying for a dog with a broken limb and watching the leg like go from broken to like stiff. So that was kind of cool. That was a supernatural thing, I guess. Another example of whether it's real or not doesn't really matter. My dad my dad tells the story of when his one of his sisters passed away, and he was really disheartened, and he just took off running away from the funeral. He's jumping fence, jumps fence. He's out like way far away from anybody. He's just praying, and he's imagining like his sister was handicapped in all kinds of ways, and he's just imagining she's no longer suffering. She's dancing with the Lord, this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, while he's praying, these arms wrap him up, and he's told, "Hey, your sister's dancing in heaven right now." And it was a real man, who was sent from his other friend, who is a pastor, who could not be at the funeral, wanted to be so bad that he called around till he found someone and said, "I have a friend I need you to go hold right now." And he got him there. And it's one of those, it does not matter whether or not that was actually supernatural, because to my dad right then, that was supernatural, and that's exactly what he needed. So, to completely derail my own big moment I just shared there, but my dad
really have some follow-up comments and things I'm going to say, but that's okay.
ADHD power can overcome lots of things, including how serious that moment was. But yeah, Uno reverse card. So because you were kind of mentioning your experience with that spirit and like the cold breath and all that, beckons back for me when I heard Will Rose guest on a podcast with Brandon Knight on My Seminary Life talking about some of Martin Luther's experience. So I thought maybe some of Martin Luther's stuff might be actually relevant to the conversation.
Yeah, Luther was not shy in giving God the credit for being the subject of active verbs, right? And he was also not shy of attributing the devil or Satan to active verbs too. Mm-hmm. So he definitely saw the spiritual warfare. Like you could also say there's a both end. There's supernatural, but also him maybe wrestling with his own bipolar insecurities, anxiety, whatever he was wrestling with in his life, physical, spiritual, mental aspects of those things. So whatever he felt like he was tormented with in terms of the Reformation, the pressure that he had in terms of reforming the church, translating the Bible, taking care of the village and the people that was entrusted to him, the university was entrusted to him, he felt high anxiety with those things. And so he attributed that to demons, demonic things. So yeah, he definitely heard an inner voice, angel on one side, demon on the other of his shoulder, do that. And he wrote, "A mighty fortress is our God." One little word subdues the devil that's after him. So he definitely saw that at work. So in our present postmodern age, where a scientific age, where we understand things when it comes to psychology, the physical realm, that might attribute different things to stuff. But I still think there's room to supernatural and how we make meaning out of things and understand faith and how God has acted divine action in the world. This is a far cry from us going from aliens, whether we can photograph aliens on other planets to supernatural. But I think there's room to be had in terms of how do we attribute the language scripture used, or either people from like the medieval age to our postmodern scientific age of how do we see divine action, demons, angels, and those kinds of things, and our own experiences and how we make meaning and of our souls and brains and consciousness, but also the way God is working in our world. So I think there's room for those conversations. And I will say that aliens and other planets can sometimes be another kind of aspect of a secular religion of people looking to outside themselves for hope. Maybe there's life on other planets. Yeah. So therefore there's a bigger purpose. We're all longing for meaning and purpose. And if I don't believe in God, then maybe there's aliens out there that give me purpose of why we're here. Like, I think there's a religious, spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual aspect to how we handle aliens in a kind of a postmodern world when it comes to religion too. Oh, yeah. Man, Elizabeth, what do you think about all those things?
Mind blown.
There's a lot of both ands. I want to shout out a couple different things. One, Tim Whitaker and Dan Cope, we talked about it earlier today. They have an episode recently out for us. By the time this drops, might be about a month or so. Just go through You Have Permission with Dan Cope until you see Tim Whitaker. But Tim Whitaker has a video that got popularized where he's saying, was it the spirit or was it just the drums? talking about worship service and how worship leaders kind of manipulate your emotional response. Yeah, spiritual technologies, and how worship leaders kind of manipulate your response to that so that you feel these heightened emotions, and a lot of times that gets interpreted as a spirit moving. And Dan Koch's response is, why can't it be both? And I think that's a lot of these things. Like, why can't Martin Luther have both had some kind of bipolar disorder? And also, maybe there was a demonic influence there. You know, I think both things are possible. One does not discount the other. And when you get to your crazy friends theory later, one does not discount the other with aliens and supernatural either. Yeah.
No, we'll reveal that friend. He's our mutual
we have another
friend.
crazy friend.
Okay.
Mutual friend.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on. Pang.
Oh, goodness.
I love this game.
As our number one expert with an MBA in caring about this question.
Yes.
Why should Christians care about these matters? Or should they?
I feel regarding the supernatural of God, they should care about it because God is outside anything we can fathom. So to trust in a higher being that is in the one like true God, that's why they should care. Because I mean, I don't understand how people who don't have a belief system gets through life and things get bad. Like whenever everything falls apart, like I know like God will never be shaking and never fail me and nothing is bigger than him. Like he is the biggest. So that's why I think they should do it, because I tell Taylor all the time, if I didn't have a belief in God, especially after the last few years I've had, I would just go and kill myself because there's really no point in living. Like in those days, I have nothing to live for, like even recently. But because I have the goodness of God, I know he's going to get me through another day. So that's why.
Okay. Yeah, no joke. Excellent answer. Actual joke. What about aliens?
That's stupid.
Will.
I'll take the opposite. Aliens are awesome. If it weren't for aliens, no. I agree. Like I do think where do we find our hope? You know, in terms of, I think that's a big question in terms of all that we wrestle for and wrestle with and navigate in life, vocationally, relationships. Where do we find our hope? And so, for me, it is understanding that God is behind all this and supporting me through all this. So when it comes to aliens, how extensive does that hope, creative love go and grace go? Is it just our world? Is it just our galaxy? Is it just the Milky Way? Is it the whole known expanded universe that we've been able to see? Is it quantumverse, multiverse? Like how far does that go? And I don't think there's anywhere God's love and grace and purpose cannot be extended to. So again, that John 3:16, for God so loved the world, the Greek word is cosmos. That it could be a word meaning all creative existence. And at that time, John's community thought it was just this world, this planet, their surrounding village. But in terms of how we understand the universe, there's more to it. So yeah, God can expand to all things. So yeah, supernatural, what gives us hope, what grounds us, what keeps us going, keeping living life the way God calls us. But then, you know, for me, it's fun to geek out and think about how that can be extended to, and what that would look like on other planets, other beings, whether they're conscious beings that are octopus underneath the sea, or smoky mushroom animals, or plant sentient trees on another planet. I don't know. Like, where does that go? Central nervous system physics. I don't know. But all those things is fun to speculate and think about. And do we have photographic evidence? And what would it take to prove to you, Elizabeth, that aliens exist? What would it prove to you? What would it take to prove to you aliens exist? To see with your own eyes?
I would have to be abducted.
You would have to be abducted.
I would have to, yeah.
What would you hope they would do in that
like
abduction?
They'd have to like Guardian of the Galaxy or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And by Guardian Galaxy, they
like just
put in a mission
at me or something, and then then I see the world.
Okay.
Or the universe.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good take.
Joshua.
For the record, I don't know what it would take for me to not believe that aliens exist. Like, it would just be so hard to prove that they don't exist. But that was just much harder. I have no idea. But what was the original question?
Why should Christians care, or should they care?
I just want to make sure I'm answering correctly.
There you go, sport.
Yeah, trying to stay on point for once.
I believe it when
That's
I
not
hear
been
it.
my day for that.
No. When is it your day?
Tuesdays, usually. I usually remember to take my medicine Tuesday because I'm on whole church.
Ah,
Yeah.
the whole church gets the best, Josh.
They get the medicine, Josh.
We get the rejects.
You get the off the rails, Josh. No,
You heard it here first, people.
man, are we doing just aliens or aliens and supernatural?
Yes.
Why they both matter? Supernatural matters because that's God, I guess. I don't know. I actually struggle with that. And it turns out, having heard Josh Patterson explain theopoetics, it might be that I'm into theopoetics and didn't know it. Because most days I believe God exists, but even when I don't, it's not that big a deal to me. When the days where I'm like, I feel like maybe God seems less probable than other days, I'm like, well, I still think the best way to live in this world is by following the example of Jesus. I still think that even if God isn't real, that I should love my neighbor, care for the other. I still think that love is the ultimate principle of humanity. So it's kind of like, I think God exists most days, but when I don't, it doesn't really change that much for me. So I don't know how to answer that supernatural question.
That's fine. I don't know is a valid answer.
When it comes to aliens, I struggle with this. On the one hand, I kind of wonder if we could prove that aliens exist, if that would challenge the church to understand what do we mean by love our neighbor. And maybe that'll expand what we mean by love, and it'll break open the church, and we'll suddenly have a huge revival here on earth. But then I also kind of worry that if we discover real aliens, that will undermine a lot of sci-fi stories that I think do a lot of good in the world. Like, I feel like it would be hard to imagine that out there is a perfect alien society and utopia, like what we see in Star Trek. Because I feel like if we actually meet real aliens, we'll go, oh, well, that's not a thing. And then maybe they'll undermine some of these stories that do a lot more power than reality. I'm like, some of these stories are more meaningful than reality sometimes.
Wow. Okay.
Don't ruin my Star Trek stories. That's like
Yeah. Hashtag don't ruin Star Trek. Stay away, aliens. You Vulcans, you stay over there.
Keep the vision pure. Wow. For me, growing up in this world, you just have enemies. You have people who don't work with you. You have people who don't want to understand you, don't want to be with you in any way, shape, or form, who will, in the middle of a podcast, grab some alcoholic beverages just to satiate their lust and greed and pride and all the other many sins I could lay upon someone in particular, but I won't because I love them. It's not Will.
This time.
But like what scripture does teach me is who's on my side and who's not from the supernatural side of things. And if that is indeed a real thing, I see I'm actively being worked against by forces who despise who I am, who despise other people who follow that same God, that same Jesus willingly sacrificed himself on a cross for my sake and the sake of all who would say yes to him. So what do I do with that information? Do I just get something like the story of Elisha and his servant where they just open his eyes so he can see? And I go, well, that's just a metaphor. Instead of looking at, oh, there's a constant spiritual battle going on around me that thank God I can't see because I'd probably freak out. So let me be grateful for what information has been presented to me so that I know, hey, there are forces out there fighting on my behalf. There is in the historical book of Daniel an actual angel who goes out to deliver news to him and is actually fighting against the forces of a nation to protect people and love them. And just as God says in that lovely historical book.
One day. May God open his eyes.
But that brings me a lot of comfort in that, yeah, sometimes people focus too much on the negative. And that, yeah, demons exist. People can get possessed and bad things happen because of them. But there's also forces of God working with us. There's angels fighting for us. Like there's the Trinity himself working for our sake. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. You know what? That's... Well, we'll deal with that later. I heard a ooh. Is that an interrupting ooh, or does it matter?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And then from the alien side of things, once again, that just shows to me just how creative God is if there's more out there. But it also has a lot of questions that crop up. Does that mean there are unfallen races out there? Do we go with the space trilogy side of things? Could we pollute those aliens by being around them? Would God allow such a thing to occur? Or would he supernaturally remove us from even seeing them or them interacting with us? Like, I don't know. That's a fascinating question to ask for another day. But if these aliens are real, that shows me a lot more of the creative and loving God that I already know. And does that also mean if they fell as well, did Jesus die for them? Did he just have to die on earth? Did he have to come elsewhere? Yes. It was some wonderful guy and a good friend of the show, former host, who had a great discussion on that one. So that changes a lot of our theology if we have to ask those questions when these are actually presented as real. And I think it's one of the things photographic evidence can help provide is to at least have the beginnings of that conversation because, hey, this thing is out here. Let's question it. So Peng has already been asked. Do you have something you wanted to add? You actually had something.
Yeah, I was just going to mention because I feel this is going to keep coming up. I'm weirdly enough going to bring in Greg Allison, the Embodied book, just talking about the embodied soul.
Taking it next semester.
Oh God, are you really?
Yeah,
I'm going to sit in on a
Systematic
class.
3.
I'm going to sit in on a class. I love him. He's such a cool guy. He loves hockey. Talk to him about DJ. No, where was I? Oh, yeah, his book Embodied. And he talks a lot about like what it means that we are embodied souls. We're not just souls waiting to get rid of these bodies, but like the body is an important aspect of who we are as people, and also an important aspect of who Jesus was an embodied God. And I don't know, bringing that question into the whole conversation does bring into this whole like, I think we do too much to separate the supernatural and the natural. Also going into C.S. Lewis, Miracles, great book.
Yes.
He also kind of brings back our consciousness as something that might be what a lot of people think of as supernatural. Where do we get our thoughts from? Are we just inheriting it from the next person who inherited from the next person? In which case, does it have any real grounding in reality? Or did it come from something other than human that actually has true truth, like capital T truth? In which case, we ourselves might be supernatural, going back to what Elizabeth said earlier of like, who's to say we're not supernatural? Well, in a way, if we're embodied souls, we're both. So I think that's an important part of all this. And then when we answer the silly question later. Yeah.
Okay. We'll get there when we get there. So
keep teasing them.
Peng, you mentioned it would take you actually being abducted for you to believe in aliens, Star-Lord style. But what about the supernatural beyond God himself and Jesus and all that? What would make you believe in, like, say, a ghost or demonic activity or telekinesis or something like that?
If you saw a ghost in the Bible, would that help?
Yeah, well, Saul went and like there is ghost evidence in the Bible, and I wouldn't touch a Ouija board because I don't want to mess with that kind of stuff. But just because like I believe like demonic things can exist doesn't mean I want to partake or even care to explore it.
Okay.
So rephrase your question.
What would it take for you to actually believe in something else like that? What would it take for you to get there?
Genies. What would it take for you to believe in a genie?
A djinn.
A genie?
Djinn, whatever.
Give me 3 wishes and we'll see what happens. Let's go.
First wish. I wish I was never on this podcast.
I'm very much a realist person. Yeah. So I would have to see it for myself. Like, Granted, like I've seen healings. I've seen like limbs grown. I've seen marriages restored. I've seen people come from the brinks of death. Like, so I've seen the supernatural acts of God. And I do believe there are demonic forces and there's an enemy and always trying to oppose them. So I haven't seen someone be possessed by a demon, but I've heard, like as Will was saying, enough trusted sources to know that they are real. Mm-hmm. So anything outside of, I guess, a spiritual realm that I guess is outside the Bible, I just would not believe. Like even with, because we believe God is Father, Spirit, Son, right? It's not Father, Spirit, alien. It's not Father, Spirit, mushroom, smoky guy.
That might be an alien.
Yes.
So it will take a lot.
So you're more of I have to touch the sides of
I know. I'd be if Jesus came back, I want to see the holes in your hand,
buddy. That is perfectly valid. I have a lot of problems with people who hate Doubting Thomas, and that's his moniker because guess what he did after that? He believed.
I also with the Doubting Thomas story. Sorry, you pressed the button for me, and I'm sorry.
God help us.
Do you know of all the disciples when everybody was doubting Jesus? When Lazarus died, who the one disciple was who believed Jesus? It was Thomas. Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Because he asked for proof one time. I'm sorry. That's just silly. Y'all silly.
I think we should be fact check Thomas is what his name should be.
Fact check Thomas.
Yes.
The hero among the faith.
That's right.
That's what his name
The patron saint of fact checking.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the aspect of like Thomas, that whole story, if we're going to derail a little bit and go down that story, like part of that story is that the other disciples were scared and hidden in an upper room, but he was the only one willing to be brave enough to go out and do whatever he was doing away that day. Maybe he's grocery shopping. He goes, I'll go out and grocery shop for you, like scaredy cats. And then he got back and they were like, we saw Jesus. He's like, okay, whatever. I'm out shopping for you guys and picking up stuff for the podcast. And you guys are like just hanging out here. But I think there's that aspect of seeing with our eyes, seeing and believing, but also trusting and community. And I think there is something within us that is hardwired, that where our brains are meaning-making machines. And so we're going to look to things to make meaning, to give us story, give us purpose. It's not to say that it can't be a both and with that thing, but I think there are many things that can be explained, but also a way to help us make meaning. But we're part of a universe that God used all those things, and I do think I'll make the recommendation now that like that book, there was a major impact on me in terms of how I understand faith and science, but also when it comes to aliens, is the book "Would You Baptize an Alien?" or "Would You Baptize an Extraterrestrial?" And these true astronomers, astrophysicists out of the Vatican. And when someone asked him at a press conference, "Would you baptize an alien?" He goes, "Only if she asked to be." And it was one of those things of it drew them to reflect on who are the aliens in our midst now, the other in our midst now, who we alienate that should be brought in to others. So if us workshopping in stories and sci-fi, the alien from another planet, just so how we can help relate to our neighbor that we aren't familiar with, that we should be more in contact with. If that helps us, then I'm all for it. But it can be a both and of also, and let's go ahead and prep and see if and when that happens. We're not through the 2020s yet. That could happen. What would it take you, Christian, to have visual evidence of aliens or not? Do you believe what the Navy is putting out there? Is that just a distraction of UAPs, or is that something really, really there?
Yeah, that's something I am very confident about, is that if someone is willing to put that out there and say, we don't know what this is, that's either the best PSYOP of all time or best admittance of there's something else out there. We ain't sure about it. This is our chance at disclosing that information.
Soft disclosure?
Yeah.
Hard disclosure?
That is an excellent question. It really kind of depends on what you believe they know and what they don't know. If we've actually made contact before, and they wanted to give the soft of being like, hey, get this idea in your head. These are out there, and maybe we're not sure about them, but it's okay. We're not scared. And then eventually have the reveal. I could get behind that idea. I don't know if I am yet, but yeah, as far as those as evidence, those mean a lot to me, in that the greatest country in the world militarily, with the greatest power in the world, is willing to look out and say, hey, I have no clue what that is. And that tells me that after the billions upon trillions of dollars we spend on our military budget, something is better than us.
I'm trying not to derail this. I want to say, to answer the question of the episode, yeah, it's a lot more likely to get pictures of aliens than supernatural, because supernatural, I think, mostly exists in other dimensions. So that's a much harder, more difficult thing for us to wrestle with than aliens, who are probably already been seen at some point. Also, the most likely person to get it is not going to be the government. I don't think the American government will be the first one with pictures of aliens. It'll be some crazy person who's constantly looking for the photos that no one's going to believe, because guess what? That's how most of our advances exist. The first flight was by crazy people who no one believed could fly. Like, the first person to discover the Earth was round was a crazy person who thought the Earth wasn't flat. You know, like, it's always the crazy people who discovered the cool shit. Sorry, the cool stuff.
Wait, the Earth isn't flat?
That's the one thing Pang believes in with all of her might. on this flat yet hollow Earth, filled with the reptilians orbiting around the hollow sun, hollow, with the hollow moon orbiting around the hollow Earth.
Less hollow. But
the truth is out there, says Pang.
The thing I actually wanted to say was in a response to something Elizabeth said seriously.
Yes.
Because she was listing some of the supernatural stuff she does believe in. And it beckons back to one of my favorite books, Forgotten God by Francis Chan, where at the end of each chapter, he kind of gives an example of supernatural stuff. and how crazy it is. We don't believe in the Holy Spirit and the supernatural stuff. And what's funny is like some of it, yeah, it's stuff like, hey, you know, I maybe will never walk again and I can hike a mountain. That is something that's real to me. That's like a supernatural, like God healed me kind of thing. But then some of it is like, hey, here's somebody who loved somebody when love was impossible. And sometimes I feel like we overlook because we're looking for like crazy aliens from a planet way out in the Book of Dune, or like we're looking for like, you know, supernatural, like a ghost is going to show up in my face. But in reality, the first supernatural thing you see might be Christian has peace that surpasses over all understanding, right? Or maybe the first alien you see is some algae that's growing on a moon somewhere. Like that's probably what it's going to be.
Or it could be some tech, a drone or a nanite. If you think about how we have our robotics and sending satellites and things out into the universe, our first encounter with an intelligent life may be their tech rather than themselves. And that makes more sense and if we encounter that, or we've already encountered that, then how do we think through those things? The three body problem that you guys talked about, and what Stu and Kevin and I may be able to talk about with another special favorite guest or podcaster of mine later on in the future, whether that happens or not. But to think about, what if we got the message of an alien that they're on their way and they're not going to be here for another 300 years? What do we have? What would that do to religion? What would that do to faith? They're already good theologians and philosophers who are thinking through those things, who can harmonize or think through in a healthy way what that would mean in terms of our faith and religion, not as a fear tactic, scare tactic, derail, or, if you guys discover aliens, then that's going to discredit the incarnation. No, there's some smart people who have thought through those things and what that can mean. It may it may force us to reframe some things, rethink some things, same way we with whether than a Earth-centered galaxy or a sun-centered, helio-centered galaxy, or the Milky Way. Like in terms of to rethink how our place and order in the universe, but in terms of theology, it's going to force us to think through some things in a bigger, expansive way.
So I realized we skipped some questions because we kind of merged some of them.
Sorry,
that's okay. No, that's more on me than you. I should be directing an idiot like you better. But I really enjoyed the discussion we've had. But when, in light of all these things, we see a photo out there and someone says, hey, this is the Mothman, or hey, I have a video of a UFO I saw. It's blurry because I was shaking. I was so unable to control myself at the time. And then we just have that idea of, well, that's not real. When is becoming skeptical a bad thing versus having a healthy amount of it? Pang, of course, as our number one answer for this round. How do?
So are we talking about skepticism or straight conspiracy theories?
No, skepticism. When is it okay to be skeptical? When is it not?
I mean, you can always question. I feel like questioning is never wrong. It's good to ask questions. I would rather someone ask questions and do their own research than just jump on someone else's bandwagon where they have no skin in the game. So I don't think skepticism is bad at all.
All right.
I feel like if you're doing it because you're always fearful, then that shows a lack of trust in God and you're not trusting him with your future. But I mean, asking questions is fine.
Excellent. Will.
Election November 2024. We should have a critical eye. We should look at skepticism. Questioning is how we learn and grow. So we are a question, inquiry, positive podcast, and not scared of the big questions. And so I think that's important in terms of how we grow. Authentic faith and trust involves questions. Same way it would be, I love my mom and grew up loving my mom, but there was a part in my life when I was like, Mom, why is this? Why is that? How did you meet Dad? What is our family? Where are you from? Where are you going? What does that mean? Those questions of because I trust her enough that she's going to give me an honest answer, or say, I don't know, let's go find that together. So I try to posture my church and community that way, and I hope that our podcast and community here that way. But I think, skepticism. If I'm going to be totally if you come to me Christian and tell me I met this, there's this cool restaurant we should go to called common market. We should get a sandwich here. I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't know. What is this place? There's a part of distrust or like, hey, why do you feel like that is the best place? Well, let me go there with you and let's experience that together. Like there's a one way to come at it with like total to try to like, I don't trust you. I'm going to question everything you have because I'm going to like subvert everything you say. Right, Justin. But Last Jedi. Or like, I value you, Christian, as a human being. I value your opinion. Help me understand that. And my questions are just to kind of grow in trying to learn what you learn. I hope that makes sense. And the same way with like aliens goes to religious experience.
Joshua, I wish we also had time to go to Amelie's and Rock Taco. Rock Taco is so good.
I don't believe you.
I want to just kind of be like Ditto, but I'm not fully
Ditto to who though?
Both of you guys.
Ooh.
You guys said kind of the same thing.
Hey-o.
I'm not quite there though.
Okay.
I'm going to word this in the vocabulary of 2022 Theology Beer Camp. Speaking of which, if you want to go to 2024 Theology Beer Camp in Denver, Colorado, October 17th through 19th, feel free to go to the Eventbrite's website and use the code Geekshire, GEEKSHIRE, to get $50 off. It's pretty freaking cool. But in 2022, they used a lot of conversations about what is worth your finitude. And when I think about it, like for me, I could be skeptical of everything. I could ask questions about all the things, but in reality, there's a lot of stuff I don't care enough about that I'm just going to trust the experts. When it comes to COVID-19, I trusted the experts. There was a few times they were wrong where they didn't completely tell us exactly what they thought, but I'm not an expert in that field. And the amount of time it would take me to learn all of this stuff to know fully well and have my own opinion on it, for me, wasn't quite worth my finitude. I would rather spend time loving my neighbor, listening to Will on podcasts and that kind of stuff, rather than learning everything about virology I could learn.
Go ahead. Speak about earned trust. Like, where do you draw the line of like trusting and earning the trust? You can be a stranger. You're just going to.
No, I'm confused.
But where? So yeah, that's true. But you're trusting those experts because they've already earned your trust in other experiences in the world. Yeah. So there's one thing to just walk up to a stranger. If a stranger walks to me that I know off the street and they're like, oh, you should go to Common Market. They have the best sandwiches. Why? Are you from Rock Hill? Did you grow up here? Are you in this neighborhood? You've been to other restaurants? Show me why I should earn your trust in those kind of.
And that's where I will spend the time to do research on the sources. So for example, if I lived in the Marvel universe, I probably would not trust J. Jonah Jameson coming out saying this picture is supposedly proof of aliens, but we proved this is a false picture. I don't trust J. Jonah Jameson. I know him well enough. I don't trust that guy. So part of it is knowing your sources, knowing where you're getting stuff from. I don't trust Fox News about anything. CNN, maybe. MSNBC, also no. BBC, maybe. So I do my research about my sources mostly. And for example, if Fox News came out and said this is proof of an alien and every single other news source said, no, that's fake, I'm going to probably say that's fake without doing a lot of my own research because I don't have time for all that to become suddenly an expert on evaluating pictures and editing stuff. That's just not, I don't have time to learn all that. So I'm going to fall to CNN. I'm going to fall in line with like the big authorities because they've earned my trust with other things. Just because I followed BBC. I know usually BBC is going to give accurate information that's slightly biased, but I know it's going to be accurate even if it's biased, whereas Fox News is not going to be accurate because they don't care about being accurate. Send your emails to systematicecology@gmail.com. I don't care. I'm the only one who checks it. So for the most part, I guess you have to decide what is the most important to you. Is it so important to you that you see video proof of a broken leg being set in place by prayer? That's the only way you're going to believe in God. And that's your ultimate question. If that's true, spend all of your time studying video so you can prove whether or not a video is true. Sure, why not? If it's not true and you're already going to believe in God and not believe in God, regardless of whether that video is falsified or not, trust an expert and move on with your life. It's kind of the same thing with aliens, angels, all that stuff is like, you could trust the source or you cannot. You have to decide how important are these questions to you. And much like Elizabeth, if they're not that important to you, just move on.
Just move on. So easy.
Part of me, again, I feel like my role in this podcast, I self-reference ourselves, but again, this is the reason why we do systematic geekology and why we're here and exist, because this fun question that we just threw out to the group that we do an episode on about like, hey, what would it take for you to believe in like aliens or supernatural, some kind of photograph, leads us down the road of like, how do we like understand truth or authentic relationships or faith, the nature of faith or belief, and how that impacts our life and community and relationships. So again, like these fun questions that seem like, goofy, silly questions get to the heart of how we understand ourselves and our community and relationship and who we trust or don't trust in the universe. And I think those are very, very important questions. And so if these questions that we present on these podcasts, on the surface isn't a bait and switch, but we do want to go deeper. We have fun geeking out on these things, and it's not to like Jesus juke you or bait and switch, but it naturally, when you ask these questions as icebreakers, just to get to know somebody or not, really what's behind that is you try to get to know the person and what they believe and what they value and what guides their world, and so that's why these things are fun, and we laugh at like fake news but then we go deeper to like what is it? Why do I keep living? Why do I choose to still be in this world? Who do I trust? My friend that had a pretty supernatural experience and that was an impact in their life or near death experience. That's how we connect with each other and go deeper with each other, and so yeah, I just thought I'd share that pastoral anecdote.
Which, to get back to more of the original question, if NASA sent me a really blurry photo and posted it everywhere and said, this blurry photo is proof that there is alien life on Mars, there's a good chance I'd believe them.
I wouldn't.
If my neighbor sent a picture and said, here, I took this photo and this is a UFO.
That's a lies.
Nah, not believing that one. I believe NASA for the most part. What evidence do you have to not believe in NASA?
I'm just curious why we can't go to the moon if we did it in the 80s. Did we ever go to the moon?
We do go to the moon.
80s, and it was the 60s and 70s.
Whatever. The 60s.
We also can go to the
very
moon.
Expensive.
Is it expensive? Why can't we just print more money?
We can go to the moon.
I'm just kidding. No, that was the last time we got together. Remember, I kept on.
This is the only way
you guys on.
This is the only way Pink can entertain herself right now.
Go to 23 in person.
Will your answer just then, though, of why these silly questions could also give us deep meanings? That's what I meant to answer when you asked me why fantasy is important last episode. Yeah, that's my answer.
Go look for that episode.
It should have been the one before this one. So that actually answered the question on my end. I always brought back to Charles Fort. Charles Fort was the person we get the term Fortean from. He is someone who researched a lot of things back in the day, would be like, hey, there was a report in this city where a bunch of meat just fell down from the sky. Or they saw a strange bird with a large wingspan over here. And his big thing was, why is no one covering this stuff? It's always like some local newspaper. No one checks it. No one like bothers to make sure that people weren't just lying about it. And he wrote entire books where he would make up insane premises like, well, the reason things fall from the sky is because there's giant continents and islands up there we can't see, and people just throw their trash down at us, which is not him. That's not what he actually believed. But his point was, I'm actually giving you an answer versus pretending these things don't happen. There's that skepticism of, well, as far as we're aware, there's no reason why a bunch of frogs and fish should just suddenly fall into a city. But it happens. So what do you do with that? You either say, well, it doesn't happen, and you deny reality right in front of you, or you actually attempt to answer the question. And that's why I have a lot of issue with a lot of modern skeptics, is that they don't attempt to answer the question. They just say there is no answer because that thing doesn't exist. I have a huge issue with that because it's implausible. It's illogical to say something like that. Science changes over time. We used to believe in this thing called phlogiston. Now we call it oxygen because we tested things out. We figured out how things actually work. We did the episode on Treasure Planet yesterday that we used to believe the idea there was this thing called the ether in space where it would be possible for us to actually travel inside of it and maybe even breathe. We have proven that to be false because science has actually tested that question versus just saying that's how it works. Therefore, believe.
I want to bring up another book. I keep doing books this episode. I'm sorry. Exodus by Richard Elliott Friedman, which I'm trying really hard to convince Christian.
It's called, hey, author, Moses, solid dude.
There's zero chance that Moses wrote Exodus. Moving on.
Says the guy doesn't believe in Daniel.
But yeah, Richard Elliott Friedman writes his book about Exodus called Exodus. There's probably a subtitle, which I'm trying really hard to get Christian to read it so I can talk to him about it on a podcast at a later date. One of the things he brings up that I really enjoy that is relevant to this conversation, he talks about how that archaeologists and their scholarship kind of tend to be really hypocritical. As he points out, if things happened in reverse, if we found all of these little artifacts and all of a sudden we found a text and that text was the Bible, they would 100% use that text to say, these are what these articles are. We've discovered all of these things. But because we already have the Bible, then we found these artifacts. They're like, oh, no, that doesn't mean this. And his thing is, no, you use ancient texts all the time to explain artifacts. Why can't we use Exodus to describe what these artifacts that we dug up are?
Yes.
And he brings up some really good points. It makes Exodus way more interesting. And if Let Nothing Move You covered that, that would be really cool.
Do you think he'll be moved?
Nah.
Probably.
No chance in the world. All right.
Oh, man.
So, Peng,
Yes.
my favorite answerer of questions. One who begged to be on this episode. What can you think of, Peng, as the best photograph or recording of either a paranormal, supernatural, or evidence of UFOs out there? What's the best example you can think of using your immense knowledge of both of these subjects?
Like,
You can say E.T.
Yeah, let's go with that. Sure.
You can go
That flag whip it in the wind.
Yeah, I'm sure the flag is still, and the flag was still there.
They brought a fan with them for that photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is it wind in space?
If you bring a fan.
No, I mean, if you showed me a picture, I would just be like, cool.
Yes.
So you haven't, this is not a criticism, you haven't really studied stuff like this. You have no examples that come to mind. That's perfectly fine.
No, I thought you wanted me to make up something.
No.
Oh.
Like in real life, have you seen any photos or anything?
Is there anything you've seen?
I mean,
I
like,
would say that's like the best thing I could think of.
yeah,
I
like
have the point
people
to that.
posting stuff on Facebook with the blurry things. Are like, look at that. That's what is that in the air? Stuff like that.
Okay, that's your best example.
That's the best one. The Book of Face.
Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Joshua.
I feel like my answer is a cop out, but if I'm being honest, I saw on Facebook not that long ago another host of our podcast, Reverend Justin Coleman, posted a picture of himself at a Christian might not love this example, and I'm sorry, but he was at a Pride festival and he was in a rainbow coat. And I know Justin, I know that he himself does not identify as LGBTQ, and I'm looking at him going, that is some supernatural love that's doing some good in our community. And that is photographic proof of the supernatural right there. If you want an answer that's not a cop out, I again, I have to go back to when I was little and I saw that pet and his arm, like the limb was literally broken and it just, boop. So it's just one of those.
But that's not a photo.
Your best example of a photo or film is your mental
my
photo.
brain. My eyeballs took a photo. I don't know. Oh, I actually have personal photographs of my leg bone where part of it was missing and then later found. I still have some of it missing though. So I don't know how good of a proof that is, but I'll take it. That sounds supernatural to me.
Better than your last.
Leg bone doesn't just appear.
I have friends who have like photos of like the cancer was there and then now the cancer's not. Boom.
There you
Yeah.
So we're talking documentation that I remember seeing that can illustrate the conversation around the proof of aliens or the supernatural.
You can also say Justin Coleman.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, just proof that Justin and I are pastor churches on the same street is cool. Yeah, I go back. There's that Sasquatch side photo of like walking. That is something. Yeah, something that's embedded in my mind. But I will say, as of late, I do find it curious. I am these days more curious than I am skeptical, but curious about these UAP sightings that the Navy's releasing post-Trump, post-pandemic. Is it a soft reveal? Is it a distraction? Is it something that kind of is looking up rather than the problems right here in our midst and beside me? Not quite sure. That's where my skepticism and critical eye looks at. But I do find it curious now of all times. Why is that going on? And I will say that I will click on the YouTube videos of Senate hearings of trying to figure out what these photos are and what it is. Is it another country? Is it extraterrestrial? Is it us from another dimension or the future? I don't
travel.
know. Yeah, it's a time travel. Like there's something going on. I'm very curious of that. And that has me definitely clicking on and curious about those things.
Now that Will said it, my official answer to whether or not it would be more possible to see aliens or supernatural in photographic proof is it's more likely we get photographic proof of time travel. Yeah, that is the most likely.
In a blue police box?
Probably not, but hopefully.
That would change everything.
I can only dream.
For me, I mean, there's plenty of photos and videos taken of, potential UFOs or even of alien life itself. I mean, just to have an answer to the question, I'm going to say the Phoenix Lights of, I believe, the late 90s, where multiple people seeing the exact same thing, reported the same thing, took videos of the same thing, of these different lights in the sky that weren't way before drone technology. Yeah. And that puzzles me. Is that some military experiment? Are there actually some alien aircraft out there? Who knows? I don't, but that's something I would point to as a positive portrayal of something I have a bit of skepticism about versus something today. And then as far as the paranormal, I mean, there's also plenty of ghost shows out there, whether they're manufacturing things or not, whether they're actual EVP recordings or someone speaking in the background just so you don't know they're there, or they actually are picking something up.
Christian.
We talked about that all day. Goodbye, Joshua. Yeah, I don't want to see you. And but one that I kind of point to is be like, man, if this is a fake, it's a pretty dang good one. And that's like the Fresno Nightcrawlers. We don't know what those are. It was taken back in the early 2010s, if I remember correctly. And it's these giant things that look pale white. And it's basically a bunch of legs and a tiny little head. And they're just walking around and they leave the camera. And that's all it is. And I've had multiple people try to replicate that. And the vast majority have failed completely. The ones that night crawlers, the ones that have actually gotten it close.
Did J. Jonah Jameson print it?
No, he did not. It took a lot of work that I don't think the people around here would have been capable of doing. So that's one thing I do there. So that's it with that. Anything else before we move on?
Yeah,
So good.
I mean, it's all pretty interesting. I'm trying to remember. There was a question brought up that I wanted to posit. But I'm trying to remember why I wanted to posit it.
You spend your time in timeout figuring that question.
Why?
You gotta go.
No, just
Okay. So last question for this part. I promised it earlier. This goes out to you, Matthew Winter.
Well, bad question.
Anyways, I write this specifically to honor Matthew's continued efforts in every conversation I've had for Friday Night Frights, or every conversation we had discussing this potential episode on Discord, where he has attempted to derail it by asking this: are alien and supernatural entities one and the same?
No.
Why?
Next question. Because that's dumb.
Says who?
Me.
What do you know?
Everything. No. I asked TJ. And he told me.
But why not?
Because TJ said so. No. Okay. So here's the thing. We might be misconceiving one as the other, but I think to say that they are one and the same is to misunderstand the concept. So, for example, and there's a both and, I guess, to this a little bit. If aliens are like humans, then yeah, they're both natural and supernatural. They probably have souls, and Jesus cares about their souls, but that doesn't make them any more or less natural than we are. But I think what Matthew's trying to say is that the angels that's described in the Bible are the same things as aliens that people have seen, and no, that's not. There's not symbolic representation telling the theopoetic stance rather than just saying this is reality. No, there's not some weird alien that happens to look exactly like a seraphim because, we know how nature works, and nothing would possibly evolve that way because it's not useful.
Okay. I think to better represent Matthew in this question, I think his thing is not more ancient aliens. It's more the idea of abductions happening right now. are demonic in nature, pretending in some way to be aliens, because in that way they get you to question things that aren't related to religion. Instead, they make you question the natural world, but get you focused away from the things of God, which would, in this potential scenario, be a demonic tactic to make you not thinking of what is good and true.
In that case, I would say it's neither. Most of those abductions are just people having psychiatric breaks. It's not supernatural or alien. It's just you need a psychiatrist.
I like Matthew's question of kind of critical thinking.
Yeah, I'm joking about the question.
Yeah.
No, just poking fun.
You're poking fun. We totally get that. And I think he gets that too. But I understand the question to kind of root out a deeper understanding of, are we talking about the same thing? Is the same devotion? Is the same like secular religion of, I'm looking towards ghosts, I'm looking towards aliens to look at something greater than myself, that there's a deeper purpose out there, that this life isn't the only thing. And rather than just saying, is there God, is there spirituality, is there a heaven, is there hell? Like those kind of things. It's a different way of going to the same thing, of looking towards thing. I could be misrepresented, but I think I appreciate the question of like, are they one and the same in terms of their base or foundation or what people look to them towards? I find that, but So I admire that aspect of it. I forgot there was another point I had, but I'm going to pass on.
Pang, your final word on this topic that you care so much
I
about.
don't even know who Matthew is
Ultimate
to
authority.
comment.
Have you not done an episode with Matthew yet?
Oh, is it the Winter dude?
What?
Yes, Matthew Winter.
Oh, I know. I don't care to comment.
You hear that, Matthew?
See that, Matt? Your question's dumb.
Pang doesn't care. I will.
Care about.
Yeah, that's fair. So
Okay, Alex,
I brought
what
this
is
here
it?
so Matthew could have that out there. I don't actually believe it, but I see why someone would question it in that manner. I see the logic behind a demonic force utilizing something different, a different kind of tactic than they would have used back in the day to get people to think of something else rather than the things of God. And I don't, Matthew. Yeah, Matthew. If we've misrepresented you in any way, feel free to comment. We could use the free.
Can I
Go ahead.
derail us again in honor of the derailer?
Sure.
Matthew Winter also calls himself the derailer, for those who don't know. Another really good book. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. I think it's Andrew something. But as a spiritual successor to the Screw Tape Letters, writes the Operation Screw Tape. And it's a demon military tactics. It's more, instead of individualized, it's more like culturalized. Yeah, I don't know. It's before culture war sort of thing, but it was still about culture. One of the things interesting in it, though, they do talk a lot about distractions and how if we can get the culture focused on this instead. Now the culture is no longer concerned about whether or not demons are real at all. They're actually concerned about something else. So I think that does feed into this conversation a little bit.
I agree.
Also, it's a really good book. I disagree with a lot of it because it challenges whether or not the Old Testament's useful. And the Old Testament's great. But I still think it's something everyone should read if they have if you're strong enough in your faith that it's not going to derail you in your spiritual walk, you should read it and check it out. I think it's worthwhile.
So final verdict, I agree with Pang. Yes, I don't think this is real, but I could see the logic if it were indeed real. So what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below of anything else that we didn't cover. You cover this specific photo here or this specific video here. Like, hey, let us know about it. That way I can research it myself. May even see it on Friday Night Frights one day.
Did you still want me to unpack the stuff with Michael Heiser?
Oh, yeah.
I think other matters need to be attended to.
Okay.
So, guys, Will, can you give a recommendation for the audience, please?
Would You Baptize an Extraterrestrial? Read that book. And then I'm a little curious about what Joshua was getting ready to do, that maybe I asked him to circle back around to talk about, if you could do that in 1 minute or less.
I can't do it in 1 minute or less, but I can, with my recommendation, say, I don't remember the name of the book. It might just be Demonology, but he does write a book about demons that I think is worthwhile. Michael Heiser. He writes a lot about like the divine council stuff. So if you go into the Bible and you see parts where God's using the we pronouns, or in the book of Job when he's talking to a whole council of people and Satan is just part of the heavenly council. A lot of that kind of stuff, as well as stuff in, I want to say it's Deuteronomy, where God's actually says that some of the other lands are owned by other gods. And what does that mean? Who are these other gods? is it angels or are there other supernatural beings? He does a lot of work with that that's actually really interesting. Ancient Aliens really misrepresented it because they asked him about it, and he more or less, I think his point was actually that there might be supernatural things we've mistaken for aliens. And they kind of spin what he said into they're the same thing, which they're not. Sorry, Matt. But they could be misrepresented and mistook for one another because they're both alien to us.
Hang, your recommendation.
It's called A Condition Called Love. Very cutesy romance anime. Just watch it. It'll make your heart flutter.
That's what it should be, folks.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I care about.
Love. I will recommend the horror film Imaginary. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but I did enjoy my time with it.
I just like aliens, love story, horror. All right.
Horror, otherwise known as Any Time I Spend Time.
Love you too, bud.
I love you too, Joshua. Guys,
Hey, what's that say on your mic real quick?
I'm out of it. So, thank you very much for all that you do. Please leave a like and subscribe if you can. If you don't, you break Will's heart right here. You can't do it. He'll die live, and we don't want that. We need him around for another 50, 60 years, beyond that, hopefully, so that he himself can meet aliens one day and prove paying wrong. Now, please, you get a chance, also leave us a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. You can offer us episode ideas on our Discord page for the episode channel discussion, on our Priest of the Geeks page on Facebook, or you can just email us at systematicgeekology.com. At gmail.com. Also, as well, since you guys got us to over 100 subscribers, we are doing a special Q&A special later on, to be determined, but we need your questions, so send them our way at those places as well. Thank you for all that you do. We'd also like to thank our supporters, Aaron Hardy, Daniel Sigmund, Trip Fuller, and James Barrett. You guys are the best. Remember, we're all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests. Hey guys, Christian here. Have you ever wondered why you should become a patron? Well, let me help you out. Because if you become a patron, what you can do is have live access to our YouTube exclusives like Comic Book Ketchup, Drinks with Teachers, Manga Mustard, and a companion series that go along with our annual theme. You can be there live, commenting with us. We really want you there. You also get access to exclusive merch. We have t-shirts, mugs, handbags, long sleeve shirts, all over the place for you, for your help in helping us. Also, we have extra bonus questions for you to look at. We have 4 to 8 times a month doing that. We have exclusive Discord channels for you, discounts at our store, access to any future D&D campaigns, and you can easily access all the patron content through our Spotify page at the top where it says exclusive content for subscribers. Also, one of the new things we're adding is voting privileges for future episode topics. We're going to be doing specific things for you, voted by the patrons. And you also get that extra satisfaction of just helping us out. And we appreciate all you do.
Hey friends, this is your pal, Will Rose, and I have some exciting news. Systematic Geekology will return to Theology Beer Camp this year, October 17th through the 19th in Denver, Colorado. And we hope that you can join us. We are part of Theology Beer Camp in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, at my home church in my hometown. And that year, Theology Beer Camp was called the God Pods. And then we were in Missouri, a part of the Geek Stage. Yes, we had a whole entire Geek Stage where we had workshops and speakers and had incredible conversations. And Theology Beer Camp last year was called the God Pods Strike Back. So you kind of see where this is going. And so this year, the theme is the return of the God Pods. And so if you head over to Eventbrite and follow God Pods 2024, or hop over to Instagram, follow it there. And if you enter promo code Geekshire, you see what we did there? Yeah. Wilbo Baggins approves. If you enter Geekshire, all caps, no spaces, you'll get $25 off your ticket price. Geekshire, all caps, no spaces, Geekshire. Yeah, say it with me, Geekshire. Enter that. You get money off your ticket, and you can join us and hang out and drink beer and have great food. And even if you don't drink beer, you can have incredible food and beverages and conversations with your favorite hosts here at Systematic Geekology. The Geek Stage is growing. I'm proud of that, and we thank Trip for this opportunity. We hope to see you at Theology Beer Camp, the Return of the God Pods 2024.